That is why we're out here. That is a small reason as to why we're out here.
Tonight, missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls advocates bring their message to Ottawa.
When it comes to conservation, there's only one way forward.
The federal government partners with Indigenous guardians to protect the land.
My dream was bringing these horses, back to our community to be able to help our people.
And horses are bringing healing to Wikwemekong. Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. We start tonight in Iqaluit, where the state of emergency over the low reservoir level is now over. Our Kent Driscoll joins us. Kent, the state of emergency may be over, but I understand that doesn't mean that any of the underlying problems are solved, does it?
Thanks. I'm here at the Apex River, one of the bodies of water the city of Iqaluit has gotten permission to pump from. And you're entirely correct. Just because the state of emergency has been removed doesn't mean anything has been resolved. The state of emergency existed for one reason: to help the city cut red tape in their application to pump water from this river via the Department of Fisheries and Oceans approving the process. Now they have that permission now, and pumping is expected to begin here tomorrow. So yesterday, the territorial government removed their emergency declaration for Iqaluit because it isn't needed after the permission is granted. The city followed suit as they didn't need the declaration active to start filling the reservoir by pumping. Iqaluit officials figure they need to pump 500 million liters of water into the Lake Geraldine Reservoir because a long dry summer left it at about half the needed level. Now, that figure might come down. August was a wet one here in Iqaluit, which is really unusual. Iqaluit gets so little rainfall that technically we qualify as a polar desert. Now we received 60 millimeters of rainfall in the month of August, and if you have a look behind me, we might even get a little bit more today, and that is helping. But the main issue that remains unresolved is the size of the reservoir. Iqaluit has received over $200 million in funding to expand the reservoir and replace much of the water infrastructure. The money is there, but the same challenges that face every major project in Nunavut face this one. Short construction season, the need to send all of your materials by sea lift, flying in specialized workers. Any major project here in the territory of this scale will take years, and this one's no exception. So it might not be a state of emergency anymore, but that sure doesn't do anything to help fill the reservoir. Back to you in Winnipeg.
Thanks for that, Kent. A Saskatchewan woman is walking across Canada to bring greater awareness to the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Krista Fox of North Battleford was in Ottawa earlier this week, where she read the names of about 100 Indigenous people on Parliament Hill. They've either gone missing or been murdered. Fox says she was inspired to do the walk by the disappearance of her friend Ashley Morin, who's been missing since July 2018.
That is why we're out here. That is a small reason as to why we're out here. Yes, we're out here for our loved ones, to help bring awareness so that we can bring Ashley home. It's been a long 4 years, more than 4 years, July 10th, and it's been too long.
The federal government is putting $30 million into more than 80 new Indigenous guardian initiatives to help communities in their efforts to protect the natural environments. Guardianship initiatives are now in place in 170 Indigenous communities. Guardians' duties can include conservation, wildlife management, and monitoring human activities. The federal government has provided over $50 million to support programming since 2018. This year's funding comes from a 2021 commitment to provide up to $173 million to support new and existing initiatives.
When it comes to conservation, there's only one way forward. With the federal government acting in concert with Indigenous peoples as partners and leaders from the get-go.
A new 3-digit number is coming next fall. Dialing 988 will connect callers to mental health services and suicide prevention. The CRTC says that the new number will launch in November. The move brings Canada in line with the US, which began the service last month. But first, all regions must adapt to 10-digit dialing. Right now, some parts of Canada still use 7 digits. CEO Ian Scott says 988 may save lives. A single, easy-to-remember point of contact will provide much-needed help to those in crisis and will be crucial to saving lives, although much work is left to be done to bring help to people who need it. We have accelerated timelines to ensure that 988 is implemented as quickly and as efficiently as possible. That's from CRTC Chairperson and CEO Ian Scott. Well, if you are currently struggling with mental health issues, you can always call the Suicide Canada line at 1-833-456-4566. Well, over 50 years, Small Boy Cree, Mountain Cree have lived in the Rocky Mountains in Alberta. This isolated camp had broken off from the Musqueam community and left to live off their land. APTN's Chris Stewart spent a day with the people there as they prepared for a powwow.
3.5 hours west of Edmonton, residents of the Small Boy Camp are making final preparations for their traditional powwow. The community of about 100 lived in this location in the Rocky Mountains since 1968, when Lazarus Roan, Simon Omisu, and Chief Robert Smallboy left the Ermineskin Cree Nation with about 140 people to live off the land in the mountains. Rowan Roan and her sister, Zora Roan, are the granddaughters of Lazarus Roan. They were raised here. The camp was named after Chief Robert Smallboy, who resigned as Ermineskin chief to live in the new camp here.
He was the chief of Ermineskin back then, and when he came out and followed my grandfather, he didn't even know he was going to be chief here. He didn't even know, and my grandfather needed somebody to work with the government and, you know, the outside world, while he concentrated on culture.
Lazarus Roan wanted to live a more traditional way of life by living off the land. He was concerned that life on the Ermineskin Cree Nation was getting away from traditional values.
A lot of it has to do with also sins and stuff, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Back in the day, that's what they said, right? But that was they initially wanted to get away from that kind of life and come back to our traditional ways of knowing, doing, and being, back to the land. So we believe that we are part of this system, because we are the natural law, because we are connected to all forms of life. We're connected to so much here. That's who we are.
In the 70s, about 1/3 of the people broke off.
They had a falling out with a family. The Mackinac family was part of the group. And there was a falling out, and then the Mackinacs created their own camp, and then Small Boy Camp was still a camp.
Zora and Rowan remember their grandfather, who helped found this camp. Modern luxuries were not allowed. No television, drugs, alcohol. Living off the land was the way. Their water is still pure. Gathered from an underground source from the mountains, they are concerned a proposed expansion of a coal mine will impact their pristine water. They say that the Tech Resources Group are talking with them about the issue. The two sisters embrace this way of living for them and hope that children will continue to do so.
We lived off the land, and it was normal to us. And it was a beautiful life. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I miss it. And that's what I want to continue, is knowing, having these child feeling good growing up here and just like thinking the world of this place, because I do.
It's not a reserve, it's Crown land.
It's Crown land. We've been here for over 50 years. There's like other times that they try to push us out of here, but they have not succeeded.
Have they stopped trying?
I'm sure they're still trying. I don't think they have stopped, because this is a special place.
For 2 days, they are celebrating their traditional powwow with friends and family, celebrating with them.
This powwow here is for the children, because this is what my grandfather was about. He was about the children, future generations. So, we still try to bring this community together.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Small Boy Camp, Alberta.
We want to hear what you think about people leaving the Indian Act Reserve to live a more traditional community life. Here's how you can continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us, of course, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see all of our latest stories. We need to take a quick break, but first, here's a look at a story that we're working on for you. Sinixt people from the U.S. beat Canada in its own Supreme Court for rights to their ancestral lands in BC, but the fight is just now beginning to be declared not extinct.
I really blame the colonial governments for creating this.
The Columbia River, one of the most erratic in the world, is being harnessed. 30 miles north of the American border,
the Disotell case does not draw any lines between Canadian Sinixt and American Sinixt. And I know there's a lot of information flowing around this community in particular, drawing lines that, in my respectful view, should not be drawn.
We have to re-inform people, oh no, we're still extinct. It's not done.
Who is going to decide who is or who isn't your people?
That will all come by the lineage, right? And so those things like that, I don't even worry about.
Welcome back. The latest film in the Predator franchise has been receiving praise for its Indigenous representation. For more on the success of the film and what it could mean for future projects, I spoke with Jesse Wente, the co-executive director of the Indigenous Screen Office, earlier. Jesse, the Indigenous Screen Office is all about Indigenous voices, telling Indigenous stories on the screen. How does a movie like Prey fare when it comes to Indigenous representation?
I think it does reasonably well, certainly by Hollywood standards. It has an Indigenous producer, Indigenous stars. Clearly, the film took great pains to try to get it as right as you can in a story about a space alien coming to Earth to hunt. So it tried to get to be as accurate as one would maybe even more so than one would necessarily expect out of a movie about exactly that sort of subject matter. So I think certainly in the context of Hollywood, it represents a not insignificant step in the right direction.
Yeah, well, and I think the response confirms that, right? The film's been hugely successful, racking up huge streaming numbers, breaking records. When I heard beat out the Kardashians for streaming, I was like, we've arrived, right? What message do you hope that this is sending to the film and television industry?
Well, to follow up on your point, hopefully it means that if you want less of the Kardashians, you should program more Indigenous content. Might get you there. I think the success is probably maybe even the bigger story than the representation of the film itself. Because in Hollywood, the numbers are what's going to matter,
right?
In terms of whether they think that this is something they might do again, for example. And I think this is part of what we've seen as a trend in Hollywood, south of the Medicine Line.
Yeah.
Some very interesting Indigenous-led productions that have found very large audiences in a way that probably was not entirely expected by the studio. I expect in this case, if they had known quite the volume, it might have received a theatrical release, because that's more money that they might have skipped by maybe thinking this was a streaming only sort of film. So I think it adds to what is an increasing drumbeat that Indigenous people on screen, Indigenous people behind screen making the decisions about what goes on screen is profitable. Imagine that. So I think that's a really big boon. What the one note of caution I would maybe say is that Predator is a franchise. It's one of a series, and so part of the learnings that they may take, at least in terms of the Predator franchise, is, well, why don't we set another film, in say feudal Japan or ancient Egypt? I think this is it in terms of the Predator franchise in our communities, but I think it breaks down some of the beliefs that making these sorts of shows wouldn't financially be viable. I think those days are very close to being in the rearview mirror, and I think that opens up a lot of opportunity.
Well, and this, this is building on to your point. Reservation Dogs, Rutherford Falls. There's lessons in all of these, in addition to Prey. And so, let's hope that the television and film industry is paying attention and is ready to invest in more projects. Is that what you think the takeaway is from all of this?
For sure. I think it will happen, even just because a success like Prey and all the shows you mentioned, Rutherford Falls, Reservation Dogs, means the talent involved will likely get to do something else. That's also what that success means. So it means even if it's just those folks, they're going to get to go on and do more. But I think there's other doors that open. And, listen, the Toronto International Film Festival is just a few weeks away. The Indigenous presence there, I think, is the greatest ever that we've seen. And that's including the folks from north of the Medicine Line. Our content, creators, our storytellers are starting to break through as well. So I think you're seeing, and of course they also have, at TIFF anyway, shows from Australia and New Zealand. Our folks all over the globe are getting in the position to actually tell these stories. And what everyone is learning, but we always knew, was that those stories have appeal far beyond just our communities. And in fact, a lot of folks are yearning for these stories. So I think I think all of it is pointing in a great direction. And sitting here just thinking about when I got in this business in the mid-90s, it was nothing like this.
Right.
And I think that just shows what is possible and also gives us an indication of just how far we can continue to go.
Well, from your lips to creators' ears, let's hope so. It seems like the ball is rolling. We've got that momentum. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Miigwech.
It was great to talk to him the other day, and just talking with the crew, I guess I'm watching that movie tonight. Looks like a must-see. We have got to take a break, but here's what's coming up when we come back.
I had a little guy who has PTSD and was one-on-one just wasn't working, and so I sought out horse therapy.
Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. Today's pic is from the shoreline of Slave Lake in Canuso, Alberta at dawn. Thanks so much to Daniel Gutovitz for submitting this amazing photo of the still waters. We want you to share your pictures with us. Send them to share@aptn.ca. You could be our next photo of the day. Let's take a look now at tomorrow's weather forecast. We've got cloud and 24 for St. John's, 24 and sunny for Fredericton. Le Grand River, showers and 11 degrees. Kuujjuaq 15 with some showers expected there. Sunshine and 19 for Montreal, Rouyn-Noranda and Val-d'Or, both 17 and sunny. Ottawa, mix of sun and cloud, 19 degrees expected. 27 and mostly sunny for Sault Ste. Marie. Sunshine and 29 for Thunder Bay. Kapuskasing and Timmins, both 18 with some showers. 21 and showers for Thompson, 19 and showers for Pucktawagan. 34 and sunshine for Winnipeg, Brandon, 36 and sunny. Sun continues in Saskatchewan, 29 for Saskatoon, 35 for Estevan. 24 with a chance of showers for La Ronge. Stony Rapids, mostly cloudy, 12 degrees, maybe some showers there. Fort Chip, 17, chance of showers, 24 and sunshine for Grand Prairie. Medicine Hat, 34 and sunny skies, same with you in Lethbridge.
33 and sunny for Kamloops, 26 and sunshine for Quesnel. Prince Rupert showers 20 degrees, 23 and sunny for Fort Nelson. Mayo 15 and sunny skies, Whitehorse chance of showers 14 degrees expected. Wati showers and 16, Fort Simpson 20 and sunny skies. Polytech 16 and sunny, Inuvik 17 mix of sun and cloud. New Yacht 9 degrees and sunshine, Arviat 10 and sunny. 5 with a chance of showers for Arctic Bay, Iqaluit 4 and mostly cloudy, Kenite 8 and cloud.
Throughout history, humans have used horses for many things, including from getting from point A to point B, but also much more. Here's Annette Francis with a story about a program using horses to create connections on Manitoulin Island in Ontario.
Put your hands on her. You wouldn't know it, but Marsha Manitowabi hasn't always worked with horses.
I do one-on-one counseling with youth and children, and struggle with, that one-on-one talk therapy. So I had a little guy who has PTSD, and was one-on-one just wasn't working, and so I sought out horse therapy.
She says she tried it for herself first and loved it. Then the biggest test came with the little guy she was counseling.
In the very first session, he was leading that horse out of all the kids. And after the program was done, my coworker was looking at me and saying, tears rolling down her eyes, "Did you see that?" And that did it for me. And so ever since then, I've had a passion for this work.
That session was about 4 years ago. That's when she decided it was something she had to learn how to do. So she found a mentor and became a certified equine assistant learning facilitator. And that's how MMIWG, Bajgojik, or healing horses was born.
For me, my dream was bringing these horses, back to our community to be able to help our people. And because I see the work that happens, it's unexplainable. And so for me, I'm just the vessel bringing them here, and the horses are the ones who do the work, really. And I get to witness it, and that's what makes it so amazing for me.
In spite of the pandemic, things came together. Cash and Willow were donated to the program about a year ago, and Manitowabi is expecting more to arrive. She says at times it's been challenging.
I had a lot of people come to me at the beginning and say, these horses are not ready for the program. And, there was a lot of doubt in this work that I was doing, and lots of fear. And so I had to work really hard to, do this work, build my own confidence and my own self-esteem, and building that trust with them. And so there are times when, I'd just go out in the field and I'd sing to them.
Nicole Van Stone knows the difference that horse therapy like this can offer. It's helped her heal from her own trauma. She says it's been a powerful experience.
It was the first huge step forward in healing. And the horses, sometimes when they heal and they take things off of you, they roll on the ground, and they just let that go. And so it's just a spiritual exchange where they take it from you and release it back to Mother Earth.
Manitowabi plans to move the horses up the road to the Ozwamik-Gittiganing Language Ranch, so language and culture can be included in the program. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Wikwemikong.
That is a wrap on your midweek news. We're so thankful that you could join us. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Dennis Ward will be here tomorrow with more news for you. Until then, have a great night.